I haven't owned a lawnmower ever since I watched this movie for the first time in theaters. I also haven't gone camping, fishing, swimming, barbecuing. I haven't watched TV in the living room peacefully, and I haven't slept since this movie. Well, the last few aren't true, but that lawnmower did scare the shit out of me. Sinister came out in 2012, and it stars Ethan Hawke as a fame-seeking book writer. Will he find what he's looking for? Let's find out as we count the Gore versus the Boar. The first thing we see in the movie is a scene of a whole family being hung from a big old tree. It's a really unsettling scene to start the movie off with, and it just lets us know that we're in for an unsettling movie. We meet Ethan Hawke, who just moved into a new home in a town where a murder just happened. He's a writer focused on crimes that haven't been solved by the police. This makes police in any town that they move into not like him, as they think he thinks they're not doing their job. We find out that there's a missing little girl in this town, and Ethan Hawke is here to solve crimes and take names. His whole family isn't happy about the move, the kids because they miss their old school, and the wife because she's tired of moving into new towns where people don't like them. But the wife still supports him, but she does make him promise her that they didn't move next door to a house where the murder happened. We find out that this house is where the murder happened. So technically he didn't lie to her because she asked, we didn't move next to a house that the murder happened. But it's still a really jerk move by him. Ethan Hawke finds a box in the attic that's full of tapes with titles and years on them. He decides he's going to watch the first tape, and it's a really old, grainy video. It's shot in a way where the family can't see what's going on, but you see a family having fun playing football, and it's like a really sweet video. But while they're doing this, a really creepy song is playing, so it's not as sweet as we think. And then as soon as it cuts to nighttime, we see that that same family is now tied up and has a bag over their head, and you see a rope that's attached to a tree. One of the branches of the tree falls down, and they begin to levitate. This was the family that owned the house before Ethan Hawke's family moved in. Since it's shot in a way where the family wasn't paying attention that the camera was there, it makes it for a perfect mystery for Ethan Hawke's character to investigate. One free gore point that the movie will get is just from the score alone, because it's a very creepy and unsettling theme that runs through the whole film. It's not his bedtime yet, so he decides to pop in the second movie. This one is of a family that's out fishing, and once again it's shot in a way to where the family can't see what's going on. The very next scene is them in a dark place, and they're all tied up inside of a car. And whenever whoever's filming steps away, they throw something burning, and they set the whole car on fire with the whole family inside of it. This is too much for Ethan Hawke's character, and he decides that he's gonna call the police and let them know what he's found. As he's calling the police, he looks over to one of his old books that was a really big hit back in the day, and he thinks to himself, you know what? If I solve all these mysteries, I might get some of that fame back. So he hangs up and he decides that he's gonna investigate it all by himself. I like the inner battle that he has within himself, because he's not really like a bad guy, but at the same time he's making the wrong decisions here as he's moving his family into houses where people were murdered and things like that, all while just trying to search for fame. He hears some noises coming from the house, and when he goes to see what's going on, he sees a big moving box in the middle of the hallway. As he approaches it, you see it slowly open, and then his son comes out all backwards and then screaming. Personally, I would have punched him right then and there, but Ethan Hawke's actually a good dad, and he just calms him down. We find out that the son actually has night terrors, and this was one of them. And whenever he wakes up, he doesn't remember anything that happened. The next day, he decides to watch the next tape. Once again, it's a family that's having a good old time, and they're all swimming, having a fun time as a family. But then it turns into night, and you know what happens next. So they're all tied up to the pool chairs on the side of the pool. They can't move, and they slowly get pulled one by one into the pool without able to escape. As they're showing the bodies in the swimming pool, the camera pans to the left, and you see somebody standing inside of the pool. Here we get our first look at Bughuul, not to be mistaken by Bagels. We see him with his long silky hair and a sophisticated but not in your face tuxedo. In reality though, Bughuul is a very scary individual. His look is just terrifying, and that gets a gore point alone, because it's hard to come up with an original concept for a villain that's memorable. It's been 11 years, and Bughuul has stuck to me ever since the first time I watched this movie. The next night, he decides to watch the next tape. It's a family sleeping, and whenever the person's walking around the home, we see that the family is tied down while they're sleeping. Whoever is recording is going one by one to each family member with a knife and slicing their throats. It's a very gruesome scene as he goes one by one killing each family member. We don't see the full image of the children getting killed, but you do see Ethan Hawke turn around and you kind of see the background and it's blurry. This is too much for Ethan Hawke as he turns away and he starts drinking his whiskey. He does notice, however, that in most of the videos he sees the same symbol. He stops one of the movies right where the symbol is shown and he prints it for further investigation. He hears some noises coming from the attic and his power goes out. He takes out his phone's flashlight and he goes to see what's going on. As he's walking around the house, he hears some more noises coming from the attic, so he decides to go up there to see what's going on. Once he's up there, he doesn't see anything, but he does see a little box lid. When he turns it around, a snake comes out. It scares him, but then he picks up the box and he looks at it, and it looks like drawings made by children, and each drawings of each family that was murdered and how they were murdered. As he's looking at them, he breaks through the floor and then he falls all the way down. We see that one of the officers that was here earlier that wasn't a jerk to him comes. He asks him if everything's alright, and then he asks him if he could get his autograph. He tells him that he's a big fan and that he's willing to help him if there's anything that he needs. Ethan Hawke takes him up on this offer and gives him some tasks to do. We'll know this guy is Deputy So-and-so. He's good comedy relief in this specific movie, but he's not good enough to be his own main character in his own movie, which is what the sequel did. Later that night, he's putting some evidence together and he's watching some old tapes and he realizes that bughuul actually appears in some of the movies that he's already seen before. Deputy So-and-so calls him and tells him that there is something happening here because all the houses are connected in some way. He tells him that he's going to send him some information through text, and whenever he looks down on it, there's a laptop behind him with a picture of bughuul, and as he's looking at this evidence, bughuul turns his face around. And whenever Ethan Hawke turns around, he turns back, so he doesn't see that picture moving. He does, however, see right behind him that he was recording whenever he went up to the attic. He plays a video. Whenever he sees himself fall down, you see some tiny children hands grab his shoulders and pull him down, and that's when he fell. One bore point that this movie will get is the fact that it is so dark. Not the content matter, the darker the better in that case, but it's literally like so dark visually that in some scenes you can't see anything that's going on. If there's two characters talking to each other, if their hair isn't different, you can't tell who's who just because of how dark the scenes are. In one of these dark scenes, whenever he's investigating one of the videos, he sees that the family that was hung in his backyard, whenever he's watching the videos, you see bughuul sitting in a bush. He goes outside to see if he sees anything, and he does hear some rustling coming from the bushes. He grabs a baseball bat and he's ready to swing at anybody, but then he sees that his son is actually out there having night terrors once again, so he brings him inside, dropping his baseball bat. He tells his wife to calm him down and then he's gonna go back outside to grab what he left behind. Whenever he does go out there, he grabs his baseball bat. Whenever he looks over to look at him, we realize that he wasn't growling at him. He was growling at some zombie children that appeared behind him without his knowledge or his permission, and being his property, they are trespassing. Deputy So-and-so comes to give him some information that he found out. He realizes that every family that got murdered, the youngest child went missing and they were never found. That night, we get another home video. We see somebody recording a family that's watching TV peacefully in the living room. We see the camera from the front yard. When it cuts to night, we get one of the best jump scares I've ever seen. You see somebody grab a lawnmower. This whole scene is silent, so it makes it even more scary. You see somebody pushing the lawnmower, and everything is dark around it except for a flashlight that they're shining right in front of the lawnmower. They push it through some of the grass, and they keep going for a few seconds, and then out of nowhere, you just see a body there, and then the lawnmower just go over somebody's head with some really loud music that starts playing right then and there. And this got me, and I think most of the people that have seen this movie can attest to this being a really good jump scare. It's so good that it even scares Ethan Hawke out of the seat that he was watching this in. After this, he gets contacted by a spiritual professor from some college. He tells him that he knows what he's dealing with, and that the demon's name is bughuul, and that he is the eater of children. Ethan Hawke realizes that sometimes he wakes up in the middle of the night, and those home movies are playing in his office with nobody watching them. One of those nights he hears a movie playing, and when he goes to turn it off, he's walking around the house, and we get a scene that I don't really like. It's how the trespasser zombie children kind of like appearing behind him. It's like a quiet, slow motion scene, and it just comes off as cheesy to me. It's just children walking behind, kind of like approaching him, and as soon as he's about to turn around, they like run into the next room, and then whenever he turns all the way around, they're not there. It's not my favorite scene. It was not a good use of the trespassing zombie children. That same night, when he checks on his daughter, she's sleeping facing away from the door, and he sees that she's sleeping, so he walks away. And whenever the camera zooms over her, we see one of the trespassing zombie children, and she's drawing on the wall. She has drawn bughuul, and then she's telling the daughter that she needs to be quiet. This is a better use of the trespassing zombie children, but that one before it, I just didn't like it. Ethan Hawke can feel that there is something wrong in this house, and he's so terrified that he falls asleep on the couch with his baseball bat. He calls Deputy So and so the next day to tell him, and he just needs somebody to talk to. He comes over and he tells him that. And then he does tell him, like, hey man, I'm freaking out and I don't know what's going on here. And Deputy So and so just basically tells him, like, dude, you moved into a house where people died, you haven't told your wife, you're keeping all these secrets. He's like, you're stressed out to the max. He's like, so you don't, and then Ethan Hawke's like, so you don't think it's supernatural? He's like, I didn't say that, I'm just saying that's something that could do it, but I'm a big believer in ghosts, so that could be it too. It gets worse for Ethan Hawke as the very next day, his wife finds out that they moved into the house where those people were murdered. The fight scene between Ethan Hawke and his wife is great because she's a great actor here. She's telling him how everything that he's doing is super selfish and that he's putting fame over his own family. That same night, he wakes up and he hears the tapes playing once again, but this time they're playing in the attic. Ethan Hawke, being way braver than I am, decides to go up there to see what's happening. Whenever he peeks his head over the attic, he sees all the trespassing zombie children sitting in a circle watching a movie. They all turn around and do like a little cheesy like shh type deal. And right behind him in the movie, you see bughuul appear. And then he disappears. And then in another jump scare, he just appears right in front of him, knocking him back down. All of the camera equipment starts falling down. And he decides that he is fed up with whatever's happening. He grabs everything and goes to the front yard and starts to burn it. While he's burning this, the song Gyroscope starts playing, and it is such a good song for this specific movie. It gets a Gore point just because I love this song for this movie so much. It pairs so well. As he's burning everything, his wife comes out and he tells her that she needs to grab the kids and that they're out of there. He's so scared that whenever they get in the car, he starts speeding and his wife's like telling him to slow down. And he's like, nah, I gotta get out of here. We see that the jerk cop is following them and then he pulls them over. He's so happy that they're leaving the town that he doesn't even give them a ticket for speeding. Whenever they get to their new house, they're all unpacking, and he gets a call from the supernatural professor. He tells them that bughuul is a demon that in stories, he would kidnap children and take them into a different world through pictures. After they hang up, he goes to the attic and he sees that there's a box that looks just like the one that he burned previously. Whenever he opens it, it's the exact same camera with the tapes, but they're not damaged from the fire. He sees that there's another little bag in there that says extended cuts. Deputy So-and-so calls him before he can watch the tapes and tells him that they're in danger because he has discovered that the connection is that whenever a family was murdered, whoever moved there next would get murdered after they moved out of that house. And then whoever moved into that house would get murdered after they moved out of that house. So Ethan Hawke's family just moved into a murdered house and then moved out of the house. That means they are next. Ethan Hawke decides that he's going to watch the extended cuts to see what's in them. These extended cuts show us the twist of the movie, which is that in every family, the youngest child is the one that's killing the rest of the family. The first one with the family that was hanging, we see a little girl climb down from the tree. In a really dark and twisted comedy type deal, you see that she like holds onto her dad's legs while he's hanging and she's like swinging like if it was some kind of toy. We see every child after they committed the crime in every movie after this. And after each of them kills their parents and family members, they all go up to the camera and do the little cheesy shh. I do like this twist because it puts emphasis on the children rather than bughuul. So we get a lot more of the children and the investigation with that. And then this really creepy demon character is not shown that much, so he's really used minimally, but the times that they do use him, it's to great effect. While watching these, Ethan Hawke becomes dizzy and then he passes out. His daughter becomes diagnosed with creepy child syndrome, and then she ties the whole family. As they're all tied down, Ethan Hawke kind of wakes up and he's unable to move and he's just staring at his daughter. In a really kind of like messed up line in the movie, she knows that her father was like a fame-seeking person. So as she's recording him, she has an axe in one hand and the camera in the other. And she's like, don't worry, daddy, I'll make you famous again. And that's the last we see of that. The following scene is her drawing in that box. And she's drawing 3 bodies, which is her dad, her mom, and her older brother. And you can see that she has cut off their limbs. After this, you see bughuul come and pick her up, and he takes her to his demon world through film. You see him walk through a projector from real world into the movie, and then they disappear. I love the dark ending to this movie. A lot of movies play it too safe and give us happy ending, while this one kind of ended like, damn, that really just happened. I do wish that since the main characters pretty much all died here, that they would have left it as a one movie type deal. It's hard to come up with a sequel when your main characters were carrying the movie and your main actor is Ethan Hawke. Unfortunately, the studios made enough money that they warranted a sequel, and it failed miserably. As they say, you can't hit lightning with a bottle twice. At the end, Sinister ends with 12 gore points versus 2 bore points, giving us a total of plus 10 final points. Sinister is one of my favorite movies to come out of the 2010s. Unfortunately, the sequel's nowhere near as good. Join the flock and share your horror passion with us. Subscribe, like, and then hit the notification bell. That way you don't miss our next videos. And as always, let us know what you think.